Hey there, athletes. Coach John Ferry here. Very excited to welcome you to our Week 3 athlete briefing for our Fall in Love with Running Challenge. Hope everyone is having an amazing Week 2. Speaking of Week 2, per usual, we're going to start with our Week 2 review here. So, first run of Week 2 here was our interval runs. We were starting with VO2 max intervals, moving to threshold, moving to half marathon pace, finishing again with VO2 max here. So our big goals here were really to use those VO2 max intervals at the top of the workout to kind of put in an early push, an early surge to really get loosened up, to really get our stride extended and put it in some big power so that hopefully we move to those kind of threshold and half marathon pace intervals. They're actually starting to feel a little bit more like a cruise pace that you could sustain for an extended period of time if you needed to. It doesn't always happen that way in a workout, but that's certainly the hope. And then we want to finish again on those kind of tough efforts to round it out, much like we would like to mimic a race, being able to kind of hit it hard at the end, finishing a workout strong. Great way to simulate finishing your actual race strong. Second workout of the week was our hill and speed workout. So funky workout here. Tara, I see you jumped on first today. Tara added extra difficulty points to this workout by doing them all on incline. But as you know, there were 30-second inclines on at threshold, followed by 1 minute VO2 max intervals on flat. So basically repeated twice. So the goal was really to match the effort between these two segments, so to use the incline to kind of increase the power output or wattage. If you're a running by power person, it's what happens as you start to increase that incline there. And then really what we want to do is take the resistance of the hill away so that when you start to push the pace even a little bit faster on flat, it starts to feel much more achievable because we've pulled the resistance out. So you could actually use this style of workout to really break through to new paces because you really mimic that really tough running on incline, and then once again, transition it back to flat where hopefully you feel like you've got a little bit of an extra boost when you go into that interval. So once again, doesn't always work out that way, but that's certainly our goal here. I mentioned last week, this one was a particularly challenging one for some outdoor runners. So if for some reason this one was particularly tough to execute according to plan outside, we're going to definitely make it a little bit more reasonable this time around. The way I sort of imagined this was with a lot of out and backs, but probably retire this workout from our challenge infrastructure in the future. A little bit of housekeeping. Continue to make sure you're getting in, checking those boxes off, going for a 100% completion percentage. I'm still waiting on our week 1 winners. That information to be passed on to me, but it'll be presented on our Facebook page here very soon. Week 3 workouts, starting the week again with the interval run, but this is going to be a combination of marathon pace and half marathon pace running. So it's the real bread and butter of our endurance workouts, right? These kind of zone 3, kind of high zone 3, low zone 4 pacing of half marathon pace. So this is really paces ranging anywhere from 3 hours of running to an hour of running, of somewhere those kind of race paces. So the race paces or the races they correspond to and really help us prepare to. All the way from 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon, etc. So like I said, the real bread and butter of our endurance race pace. And hopefully, after a lot of these VO2 max workouts, hopefully these intervals are feeling really kind of comfortable at a pace that you can really settle in. I used the term cruisy before. I'm going to use the term cruisy here now as well. Something you're really kind of settling in and cruising. So you're working, you're feeling certainly a pretty good huff and puff, but then you get to settle out there in the recovery. And so the recovery, just so you know, is pretty generous actually in comparison to the amount of time at zone. So when you're designing workouts, there's always the stimulus of, let's say, the zone or our push, and then there's the recovery. And depending upon the severity or pace of that interval, there's a certain duration of time that's kind of most appropriate for that recovery. So this is a little bit generous, which is not a bad thing, just a little bit generous. So don't be too worried about kind of jumping in, really pushing that pace, trying to hold it. You don't want to push past the pace. That's not the point. You want to just try to get up to that pace that's listed, hold it, and then take the recovery nice and easy. There is no glory in overrunning your recovery interval. Those can be as light as you want. I'm going to tell a little story about that in just a minute. Run number 2, fartlet run. So For those who participated in the Summer Send-Off Challenge, this is an exact copy of the workout that was done in the Summer Send-Off Challenge in week 2. Thought it was such a good workout, wanted to bring it back for people who maybe weren't participating in the summer that are back with us in the fall. So I enjoyed this so much the first time, really wanted to use it the second time. So if you're not familiar with the term fartlek, this is a Swedish term meaning speed play, and that's exactly what we want to do here. So we're going to play with different energy zones, but not get too deeply involved in any of them. So I wouldn't say it's a VO2 max workout. It's not a threshold workout. It's not really a half marathon pace workout. It's kind of a combination of all those things. So speed play. And so we're going to move all the way from easy pace to VO2 max, but once again, very manageable chunks of time in each energy zone in comparison to the recovery. So don't be alarmed that some of the paces get a bit severe. This is hopefully a fun opportunity to jump in and try to kind of experience or really push towards a new pace that maybe you don't hit all the time. So for experienced athletes, this is going to be a great opportunity to practice your pacing, moving between different energy zones. And for newer athletes, it's going to be a great opportunity to explore new paces. So if you're nervous about one of those runners nervous about hitting paces outdoors, is a great opportunity, once again, for exploration, to try new paces, to try to see how close you can get. And if you don't hit it, you don't hit it. That's fine. You move on to the next one, you try again. And as we're doing right now for the summer send-off people, occasionally it's great to repeat the same exercise. Then you're a little bit more prepared going into it the next time. You might know the course a little bit better. You might know what to avoid as part of the workout, what time of day, where you don't want to be because of traffic, etc. So you're going to be a little bit more prepared if this is your second time through this workout. And finally, our long run endurance run finishes every week this way. So provides the best benefit when you genuinely take it easy, have fun with this. So a little bit of story time here. So I was with Mr. Wilpers today. We were doing some performance testing in downtown Manhattan. And I saw the most fascinating thing, and I felt entirely compelled to share it. So before we got into our testing, they allowed us to jump on the treadmill to warm up a little bit. We both took advantage of the offer. Matt, to my left, jumped on, set his treadmill for approximately 4 miles an hour. 4.0 miles per hour. Translates to a 15-minute mile. Matt then proceeded over the course of his fitness test to go on to generate a 6-minute and 10-second threshold pace. Why this is so important is people ask all the time about warm-up and what do you do for warm-up, and there was one post earlier this week and it stuck with me. It's still here, which is, I just jump in, I just run the same easy pace. It's the same thing as my endurance pace. And I want to tell you, if we want to take tips from a guy who's pretty darn good at it, he started his warm-up at 4 miles an hour. That's a pace range of 15 minutes a mile to just getting to his threshold pace around like 6:15, 6:20. That's over about 100% speed up over the process. So the point of this is while Matt was running in this lengthy test, I had a lot of time to talk to the performance specialist that was administering the test. And I asked him a lot of stuff about different stuff, but I said, what's really the biggest mistake you see in runners consistently? And he said, without fail, 100%, it is people overrun their easy pace when they're supposed to be running easy. So now my long lecture and story is coming back together here to say, are you one of those runners like Matt that starts at 15 minutes a mile and moves to 6 minutes a mile over the course of a while? Or are you one of those athletes that starts at one pace, maybe moves one bump up, maybe doesn't move up at all, just kind of starts running and that's your pace from start to finish? And so once again, I won't deduce for you, but Matt's a pretty good runner. So if I were going to mimic myself after somebody that might not be a bad guy, I think it's a very important reminder, both from Matt and his performance specialist we were working with. This is an opportunity to be easy. Those endurance runs during the week, we don't talk about those very much. Opportunity to be very easy, spending time on feet, training aerobically. And what this performance specialist ultimately said is the reason these runs need to stay so easy is that when you go back into then your main body of workout, your structured workouts, that's when you need to be able to push. And if you're overdoing it on the easy runs, you're not going to have the gas in the tank. You're not going to have that juice to be able to push when you need. So make sure, ego check, calm it down, run easy. I know I always say it, but this time I'm pushing it a little bit. That's our final run of the week, as always. So quick question that came up via the Facebook group, only a couple here, so question here was, I've been incorporating a little bit of incline, 0.5 to 2% as my new flat road for treadmill. I feel like this will help me prepare both for hilly outdoor runs as well as being able to increase my running fitness and speed. So is this a good practice? It's a means of getting better? Am I running the risk of being overtrained and stick to the runs as scripted? I know everyone will boo me for saying this, but I like running uphill. So, you can boo or not, but I also like running uphill. I've always found found myself to be a halfway decent hill runner. So I would say the old adage on this here was that maybe to add about 0.5%, maybe to 1% to make up for the lack of air resistance on the while you're running on the treadmill. You would have the air resistance outside, don't have it on the treadmill. I sort of think I don't believe the same thing. I don't think it's a bad practice to go to 0.5 or 1% as your flat road. That being said, it has definitely been shown that heart rates are actually elevated on treadmill versus running outside. The reason is that lack of airflow. If you think airflow coming over your skin, coming over your body is actually helping cool you down, evaporate the sweat that's coming out. So you remove that, even with some very strategically placed fans, almost always heart rate's going to be elevated inside on the treadmill versus outdoors, even in pretty warm conditions, with some conditions, some differences that when that's not the case. So what I would say is it's not that big a deal to have 0.5, 1%. Sometimes I'm with you, it feels a little bit more comfortable than running on what a treadmill set 0% is. When you're getting towards 2%, however, you have to be kind of thoughtful about that. What is also happening is the angle of your foot and the angle of impact with the ground is altered a little bit. So long sustained uphill running, you think the angle between your shin and foot is actually pinching a little bit. So if you do that long enough and consistently enough, it could create some issues there. You're lengthening the Achilles, shortening the angle, that kind of angle in the front. So just be thoughtful about that. I don't think it's bad to vary incline during endurance runs. I would say, especially for indoor treadmills now that have some sort of output number, wattage, power, some foot pods that provide power, you can be really thoughtful about including incline and variance in incline without taking yourself way outside of the intensity spectrum by matching the level of output on flat to incline. So let's say you wanted to include a 5-minute hill, and I will lots of times in endurance runs include the hill. One, you're changing your run up a little bit. You're providing some variety. When you run on flat all the time, your foot, especially on the treadmill, your foot is just hitting the exact same orientation. That treadmill doesn't bank left, it doesn't bank right, it doesn't go up, it doesn't go down unless you adjust it. So it's just the exact same footfall over and over again. That can lead to stress injuries. So providing a little bit of variation during the run is not so bad. But once again, you have to be thoughtful about how long it is. But if you have races in particular that are going to be hilly races, there's a big crew in Chicago for the Chicago Marathon. So the marathons get all the glory these days, but so be it. It's marathon season. So for New York Marathon coming up, for those people who are running it, there are a lot of hills on that course. And if you haven't been very thoughtful in your training process about including hills, and including hills late in your training runs, that was a mistake. One you've got a little bit of time to make up for, but so if I'm training for outdoor races, I will try to mimic as best as possible some of those hills in long endurance runs and easy runs at the part of the course or the part of my training run in which they would fall in that race. So it's smart to go ahead, take a look at the courses you're going to be running, mimic the conditions you're going to be running if you're not running locally, and utilize that as part of your training. So while I don't think there's much issue of 0.5 to 1%, I also don't feel, it's my personal opinion, don't be compelled to add it if it doesn't feel natural, and then just be careful about getting up 2% and beyond for long extended periods of time. There's some issues that could arise from that. So a little bit of variation is nice there. Well, otherwise, I'm going to leave everyone to enjoy their Friday evening. As always, I thank you for being here. I hope you're enjoying our Fall in Love with Running Challenge, and I can't wait to see you back next week. Have a great one.